Hello, and welcome to Drag Race Rejudged, where today I will be taking a look at how All-Stars 10 would have played out if Ginger had not competed. Before I start, I want to make it very clear that I mean no hate to Ginger here. I've been doing this series with every winner for years. This is just an exercise to imagine how the season would have played out. The one thing I need to do before going into this season is fixing the cast. This format is reliant on having 3 equal groups of queens, so I have 2 options. Option 1 is that I can give Ginger's spot to Maddie Morphosis, who had to withdraw from the season, and then wildly speculate. Option 2 is that I can reduce the size of each group to 5 queens to make up for Ginger not being there. I think you all know what I went with. The queen I will be cutting from group 1 is Phoenix. I mean no offense to her, but she was the least impactful on the season, and production seemed to care about her the least out of herself, Olivia, and Deja. Group 2 is, unfortunately, Lydia. She was a last-minute replacement after Maddie dropped out, so I think she's kind of a last one in, first one out situation. Then finally, group 3 is Ginger, so we can get started. Starting off with our first group, Phoenix was safe on episode 1, so we will keep our top 2 of Aja and Irene, with Aja winning. With the MVQ points, I think that all the queens were attempting to be as balanced as possible for this week, so Bosco, Deja, and Olivia will all coordinate between each other to get everyone up to 1. There is definitely an argument for Deja and Olivia giving each other points here, but I don't think it happens. It is way too early in the game to reveal their alliance, and I just don't see them wanting to leave Bosco at 0. Phoenix was also safe on episode 2, so we can keep the top 2 of Irene and Bosco, and Bosco is once again gonna win. As far as points, while Aja did have the Mimu alliance with Olivia, she has 3 points to Deja and Olivia's 1, so Deja and Olivia are gonna give each other points, and Aja is going to give hers to Irene since she has the 2 wins and was the least likely to compete with Aja for one of the slots to move on. Phoenix was also safe on episode 3, so we will be keeping the top 2 of Irene and Bosco, with Irene winning. Now for our points, Aja is at 3, Olivia and Deja are at 2. Olivia and Deja are once again going to give their points to each other, while Aja is going to give her point to Bosco to avoid knocking herself out of the competition. All 3 queens are now tied at 3 points, so production is going to pick Aja to advance since she is the only queen with a challenge win. Now for group 2, Lydia not being there actually has some significant impacts. In episode 1, Lydia was in the top 2, so we will be bumping Mistress into the top. Love Sensation is one of Mistress's signature songs, so she will almost definitely beat Tina. Now for the safe queens, I think people will try and keep things fair. Emphasis on try. Nicole gives her point to Carrie, Carrie gives her point to Georges, and then Georges immediately turns around and gives her point to Mistress. There is no universe where Mistress doesn't stir the pot, even when she's the frontrunner with absolutely 0 skin in the game. It is not quite as iconic of a sequence, but it still sets a very clear tone for the group. Episode 2 had Lydia as safe, so there won't really be any changes. Carrie and Tina are going to give their points to Nicole to keep things fair, and Nicole is going to give her point to Carrie, putting all 3 queens at 2. Episode 3 also had Lydia in the top 2, so we will have to bump someone into the top, and it's Carrie. I think that Ru would give the lip sync win to Georges, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Georges is at 7.5, Mistress is at 6.5, and Carrie is at 4, so there is nothing the remaining queens can do. Carrie Colby will move on to the merge. With all that out of the way, we can move on to Group 3, where we see a lot more major changes. Episode 1 was a team challenge, so we will completely have to rethink the format. Without Ginger, I think the challenge is probably much more design than character-based and is judged off individual effort, based on the individual performances in the challenge and who production liked. I think the top 2 for this challenge is Daya and Acid, with Daya winning the lip sync to Defying Gravity. The MVQ points are a bit more difficult since we no longer have the team format, but here's my best guess. First up, Alyssa gives her point to Cynthia. They seemed friendly before they were selected as a team, and the only other queen Alyssa might give a point to already has 3. Next up, Cynthia is gonna give her point to Alyssa. She was attempting to be as fair as possible, she was friendly with Alyssa, and Acid already has 2 points. Then finally, Denali is also gonna give her point to Cynthia. There is no way she is giving her point to a challenge winner, and from what I could gather, she seemed closer to Cynthia than Alyssa at the start of this group. Now for episode 8, we will have one collective girl group instead of 2 different ones, but the verses and performances are fundamentally the same. If we're gonna follow the conventional wisdom of bumping everyone up a slot, the top 2 are Denali and Acid. That said, without the incentive to give Ginger a boost, production would probably let the season play out fairly, so the top 2 is going to be Denali and Cynthia, with Denali winning the lip sync. Once again, I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out points here, but this is my best guess. Number 1, Daya gives her point to Acid. While she was really appreciative of Cynthia's help in the challenge, Cynthia is now the frontrunner with 4 points, and I think Daya is just too competitive to tank her own game. She is also very close with Acid, which strengthens my belief here. Number 2, Acid is gonna give her point to Daya. As I said before, they were really close, and without Ginger being favored, I don't think Acid has as much incentive to try and play strategy. Number 3, Alyssa is gonna give her point to Cynthia. There's no specific reasoning for it, but Alyssa is now down at least 2 points behind everyone else with no wins and no opportunities to get points until the next challenge, so giving a little boost to Cynthia would probably be the least worst option for her. Episode 3 without Ginger is a complete disaster, but the top 2 here can be Daya and really anyone but Alyssa. They were all roughly even in the challenge, but I have to assume that without Ginger, there just isn't as much incentive to rig the season. Letting things play out fairly, meaning not lying about Denali's role, gives us a top 2 of Daya and Denali, with Daya winning. As far as points, Daya is at 7, Denali and Cynthia are at 5, Acid is at 3, and Alyssa is at 1. For the 3rd time in a row, I had a lot of difficulty figuring out points, but here's my best guess. Number 1, Alyssa gives her point to Denali. They were friends on the season, and despite the collective agreement to help out Cynthia, she still gave her point to Denali in the final point ceremony. Number 2, Acid is gonna give her point to Cynthia. They were insanely close before the season, and since Acid pretty much has no shot at making it, giving points to Cynthia seems like the best choice. Then for number 3, Cynthia is gonna give her point to Alyssa. They were friends, Alyssa was far behind everyone else, and I feel like Cynthia would want to help her look better. This is gonna give us a final 9 of Aja, Bosco, Irene, Georges, Carrie, Mistress, Cynthia, Daya, and Denali. Moving on to the merge, Snatch game is a complete disaster. Ginger was by far the best this week, and even then, she was the definition of good not great. I don't know how Carrie or Denali would do, but I have a rough guess of what production would. Starting things off, production clearly wanted us to see Georges as the second best in this challenge, so with Ginger gone, I have to assume they would just bump her up to a win here. The high placement probably goes to Bosco, and not just because I'm a delusional Bosco stan. I can completely envision her, Irene, and Denali being roughly even in the challenge, and of the 3, I think Bosco is production's favorite. That leaves us with the safe queens of Denali, Irene, and Daya, and a bottom 4 of Carrie, Mistress, Cynthia, and Aja. Aja is the clear best of the 4 and places low, Mistress is the clear worst of the 4 and places in the bottom. Now between Cynthia and Carrie for bottom 2, I just don't know. Cynthia is probably doing slightly better in the challenge, but since I'm doing this from production's perspective, I have to factor in that I get the vibe production kind of felt she overstayed her welcome. Then for Carrie, she's probably doing a bit worse in the challenge, but amazing on the runway, and I do get the vibe that production absolutely loved her. With that in mind, Mistress and Cynthia are the bottom 2, with Cynthia once again being eliminated. Our final challenge of the season is the talent show, where Ginger was originally high, so very little changes. Bosco still gets the win, and Georges still gets a high placement. Then the final slot is where things get slightly difficult. What we saw from Aja was great, but completely unappreciated by production. On the other hand, we didn't get to see what Denali did, but from what we know, it would have been great, but at the end of the day, she was also unappreciated by production. Overall, this is just a singular high placement that I don't think will change much, but I think production is going to give this to Aja, so she has multiple top placements heading into the finale. Denali has already gone high win-win safe, and I just don't see production wanting her to be a full frontrunner going into the finale. Our safe queens are Daya and Irene, which leaves us with a bottom two of Mistress and Carrie. I'm sure Carrie would do a good job, but from production's perspective, she has the worst odds of winning the season, and I just can't justify putting her safe over Daya, who production loved, and Irene, who did a really good job all season and production respected. I don't know who takes this lip sync. Mistress did very well originally and only narrowly lost to Lydia, but in my mind, Carrie could absolutely serve this song, but from what we saw all season, I don't think I would say that Carrie is a stronger performer than Lydia. Between the two, I think production would pick Mistress to stay, but I've mapped out both scenarios and we end up with the exact same final two and season outcome, so regardless, this does not have a major effect on the season. Now for the lip sync for the crown, I'm not going to go through the trouble of rigging a fake rated queen and assigning random matchups, so I'm going to keep the original format of Queen 1 gets picked by random chance, they pick their opponent, and the opponent picks the song. Then finally, our comeback queen here is a bit different, but since I doubt production is bringing back someone who already made the merge, the comeback queen is going to be Acid, who was Rue's favorite of the 6 non-merge queens. Round 1, our queen picker is Denali, and I think Denali is going to pick Irene, since while she does have a strong track record, she is the weakest lip syncer that Denali isn't personally close with. Irene is going to pick Disease, and Denali is going to absolutely mop the floor with her. Now for round 2, our queen picker is Georges. I think Georges is going to pick Daya, since if I'm remembering correctly, she had referenced a Daya versus Georges rematch. Daya is likely going to pick Raise Your Glass, since she's historically been a Pink fan, and this is really the only song where she stands a chance. This might be a bit close, but Georges was on fire that night, and I just don't see her losing. Round 3, our picker is Acid. Acid is going to pick Bosco, since their only other options are Mistress and Aja. Bosco is going to choose Show Me How You Burlesque, and the rest is history. Round 4 is Mistress and Aja, and Mistress wins the right to pick the song. Historically, Mistress has done the best with classic drag songs, so I think she's gonna go for Party Lights. Mistress is a very good lip syncer, but Aja is clearing anyone but Georges to this song, and moves on to the final round. Moving on to round 5, our picker is Bosco, and this might be controversial, but I think she's gonna go for Georges. Even though Georges is the strongest lip syncer, she is also the likeliest to pick Wherever Whenever, which is the only shot Bosco has a chance. With this song, I honestly feel like Bosco does a really good job here, but it's Georges. Even though Bosco has a much better track record, I don't think production would let her go all the way just to lose. Our final round is Aja versus Denali to Joyride. Is there a universe where Denali wins this? Maybe. Is it this one? I don't think so. In this timeline, Denali won the See You Again lip sync in episode 8 and has not lip synced since. She likely would not rethink her strategy and would way overdo it to the song. It's also worth noting that of the two, Aja is definitely the production favorite, so we will have a final two of Georges and Aja. Aja versus Georges to its reigning men would probably be the best final lip sync of a US season we've gotten in this decade. I think they are insanely even in actual performances and fan support, but I don't think production was factoring in either one of those aspects. Georges has 3 wins and 2 highs to Aja's 1 win, 1 safe, 2 highs, and a low. Without Lydia there, Georges is RuPaul's undisputed favorite twink, and Aja was overlooked by production in 2 of 5 challenges. With all of this in mind, Georges would absolutely take home the crown if Ginger didn't participate in the season. Is this timeline better? I don't know. It is definitely less controversial though, and I think Georges doing well throughout the season and the finale makes her a more respected winner, and the season generally better regarded. Do you want non-Emmy nominated gay shit? Well then you should check out the RuPaul's Drag Race Rejudged YouTube channel and hit subscribe.